and welcome to this Wednesday's show. What we're talking about today is two very important things: pricking out and potting on. Now, it sounds like a good night out, does that? But what it means is we are taking these plants that we have grown to this size and putting them into bigger pots. It's important because what's going to happen, and we can see right here, these little tomatoes are getting a little bit too big for the small starters that we started them in that little bit of soil medium, that peat medium we've got going on there. So it's important that we take them from here, that's the pricking out, into something a little bit bigger, this size, hence potting on. So what we're going to do with these, we're going to take our dibber. Now, it's very important to have a dibber or a dobber. That helps us just lift the soil up a little bit. And I use a little bit of a metal one here. Just what we're doing is taking the soil and we're just loosening out. You see there? Maybe you don't. Do you? Yeah, you do. We're loosening out just around the soil of the seedling that's coming out. So this, you see, this seedling should just slide out with the roots. There you go. Look at that. That's a classic example of something that needs to be potted on, because look at all those roots. That's becoming what we call pot bound, because all the roots have gone all the way to the edge and all the way to the bottom. So that's a classic example of something that needs to be pricked out and potted on. So how do we pot it on? So what we do, we take it and we put it into a much bigger pot. So this one is at least twice the size of the pot it came out of. So it's got a lot more room to grow. So those roots, that root ball we've got, is going to expand to twice the size again. And roots are important because the roots are going to take up all the nutrients from the soil, and that's going to create a much bigger, stronger, healthier plant. So what we're going to do, we're going to take some of our magic compost, and remember, this is a little blend of my own, a little bit largely peat based, but with a little bit of sand, a little bit of vermiculite in there too, just to keep it nice and loose. And keeping compost loose is important, because what we want to do, you see, when we're filling it all up in there, we want it to be a very light consistency. And that light consistency allows our plants to push the roots down and to fill them up. Okay, so we put a little bit in the bottom, and then we're going to, actually this one we're going to do something a little first. This one actually has a little netting around the outside, so we're just going to loosen that netting. It's just the type of pellet I used to start these with. These tomatoes I put into pellets as a growing medium, so I'm just loosening that around to help them become adjusted and help them grow down into their nice new soily home. One thing people often worry about is how deep they should pot on, and what you're doing is everything you put below the surface of the soil there, like we've just done there, is going to become root, and that's good because we want the roots of the plant to go nice and deep. You see there, so we've buried it a little deeper than it was before, and that's going to be very good because we're going to generate some good growth from those. And you can see right here I just pricked another one out. This one's a slightly smaller root, so we're actually going to bury this one nice and deep too, and help it develop nice strong roots, because these tomatoes are gonna, oh, I can smell them right now. I love the smell of tomatoes, and the nice thing is that tomatoey smell, actually you can absorb it from the plant. When you start pricking out, it releases some of that lovely tomato smell that you get when you cut a tomato open. So that smell comes from the plant itself as well. So look at that. That's one of our other ones we just pricked out. Definitely needs some help to get those roots where they need to be, which is in a much bigger pot. Now remember, with all of these things, we want these new little tomato, or these new tomato plants to grow on. And in order to help them do that, we've got to make sure we water them. Now, one of the big questions often is how do I know when it's ready to prick out and pot on? What we're going to show you, because I've got two great examples here of two different. So this one here, we see it's got its second set of leaves right here. You see two sets of leaves ready to pot on. This one here, one set of leaves not ready to pot on. So we want to have at least a second set of leaves, just like we have here, and not like this one, okay? So this one stays where it is, this one gets pricked out and potted on. As easy as that. Sometimes you'll have plants that take a little bit longer, and that's absolutely fine. Everything grows and develops at its own speed, its own pace. And some of these things you can't rush. However, that being said, for those of you that don't want to rush things on a little bit, I recommend one of these. It's called a heat pad or heat mat. What you're going to do, put it under your plants. This is on a very, very low setting. It works like a trickle charger on a battery. So it's going to just keep it nice and warm underneath. The beauty of something like this, now it is a bit of a cost, but using something like that is going to help your plants move on a little quicker. So you'll be ready to go outside earlier than otherwise. So that will, in most cases, put you 2 or 3 weeks in front. For me, it's not really a problem. I just use it for some of my early stuff, but the tomato plants do like it. And I'm growing 3 different types of tomato plants here. We've got earlies and we've got lates, and we've also got some yellow tomatoes too, which are more a midsummer variety. So we'll be using the heat mat there for our next batch of tomatoes, which will bring on the mid-season ones. These are the earlies, and they're coming on pretty well without it. So if you do want to get a bit of a jump on the season because you think you're a little bit late, a heat mat can really help you. Okay, so well, that's all I have for tonight. Gonna have to go get a cup of tea. Stay well, stay healthy, and I'll see you all soon. Toodaloo.